as we say in film, places everyone. All right. So, welcome everybody. As you heard last night, I focused the state of the city on the question of affordability and how we take on the affordability crisis. And I wanted to steer the discussion of the city to the fact that we have two pieces to this equation. The first, making housing more affordable for more and more New Yorkers, and the second, creating more and more good-paying jobs. And I want to say at the outset, a lot of effort in recent years has gone into lifting the floor, meaning getting people a better minimum wage. A lot of energy went into getting the minimum wage up to $15. A lot of energy went into doing things that gave people better benefits, paid sick leave, paid family leave. Those were all crucial parts of the equation. You couldn't get anywhere if you couldn't do the basics for people. So I'm very proud of how far this city has come in terms of lifting the floor, but that was never an end goal. I want to be clear about that. That was a beginning. The goal is to get more and more people good-paying jobs that will give them a consistent and stable future and will allow them to live in the city and afford the cost of housing. So today is very important because it's an example, a physical manifestation of this vision. This is a place where we're going to be creating, with direct investment by the city, more and more good-paying jobs. And the beauty of the jobs we're talking about here is that someone can get involved in fields like film and TV, advanced manufacturing, fashion, and literally spend a lifetime in those fields. They can really have a career, and in many cases one that pays better and better over the years and gives tremendous stability. This is what people need. For years and years, even decades, folks in this city and all over the country got used to just struggling to get by. We want something better for people. So I'm proud of the commitment we have made through public investment to foster the creation of 100,000 more good-paying jobs over the next 10 years, and 40,000 of those will be created over the next 4 years. Now, this new campus, this Made in New York campus, is a great example of how we're going to move forward. We're putting a major capital investment into this space, $136 million to take these older, underutilized industrial buildings and bring them into the modern age, make them right for the 21st century economy. So you're going to see, starting in 2020, this whole area come alive, and you're going to see jobs created starting then in these fields, in film and TV, in garment manufacturing, in advanced manufacturing. This area, which right now is so obviously underutilized, is going to be a whole new part of our economy in New York City. This is consistent with some of the things that we started and found worked, and this is why we want to go farther with this vision. Over the last 3 years, our focus has been building up the economy in all 5 boroughs, and we've been thrilled to see that as job growth has deepened in New York City, it's really been a 5-borough reality. And Brooklyn has certainly been leading the way. The Brooklyn Navy Yard is a great example. The goal in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, which has been a sterling success for years, now we want to go farther, and we're on a path to creating 10,000 additional jobs at the Brooklyn Navy Yard by 2020, again with an average salary of $70,000. So these are truly good-paying jobs. And our life sciences initiative we announced weeks ago. This is an area where it's not just about creating the good jobs we're immediately projecting. This is about building out the life sciences sector in this city and making New York City one of the national hubs, one of the leading centers for life sciences. So the short-term impact we announced was 9,000 jobs, again with an average salary of $75,000. But this is a sector that, if we play our cards right, could grow to be as much as 100,000 jobs over the next 10, 20 years. So the stakes here are very high, and these public investments spur a lot more activity and help us reach critical mass. And look, this is an effort that is something we've seen over now 10, 15 years. And I certainly want to give credit to the previous administration as well for spurring that focus on a more diversified economy. What we're seeing is New York City increasingly a center for film and TV, increasingly a center for technology. We believe will increasingly be a center for life sciences. The public investments are expected to have a great multiplier effect and consolidate our position in the national and global economy. So, Made in New York Center here takes advantages of all our strengths, the quality of our workforce, in this case, the extraordinary flavor and character of this area of Brooklyn. Remember, the TV and film studios here, they're going to be looking not only to shoot indoors, they're going to want to shoot all around, and they have plenty here in this part of Brooklyn to draw upon in terms of local color and different kinds of locations that could evoke the most modern emotions and feelings and also can take you back in history. So the talent's here, the locations are here, the space is here, and it all comes together in this Made in New York initiative. I mentioned last night the journey that my grandparents went on. They came to this country from small towns in southern Italy. They had to learn how to make their way in New York City. And it was tough. But they built their way up little by little to the point that they had their own business, and that business thrived for decades. I also said the truth is today in some ways it's even tougher because you need skills and you need education on a level that was unimaginable in the past. So our job is to create the physical locations, but also make sure the training is there to keep people on the right track and get them to long-term stable careers. Film and TV industry, this is such an example, such a powerful example. You know, this was a great, great industry for a long time in New York City, and then we all know went through a deep decline. But today, film and TV industry employs 130,000 New Yorkers. And the last few years have been notable because we've been at an all-time high of film and TV production in this city. I'm sure Julie Menon will be speaking about that. So this site right here, with the City of New York leading the way, the space will be right for these industries. The lease terms will be right. We'll be in a position to really help jobs grow and grow quickly. And the message last night, even though I wanted to be straightforward about the challenges we faced, I also wanted my fellow New Yorkers to know that all these efforts are to help them stay in the city they love. This is your city. You deserve an opportunity to be here, to thrive here, to find a good job here, to find a place you can afford to live here. That is the game plan we are working on. Let me just say a few words in Spanish. Anoche dije en el discurso del Estado de la Ciudad cómo estamos creando 100,000 empleos para combatir el aumento del costo de vida. El nuevo campus de Made in New York nos ayuda a lograr este objetivo al promover la creación de empresas de modas, cine y comidas. Con esta inversión ayudamos a asegurar que Nueva York siga siendo de todos los neoyorquinos. Now my pleasure to introduce a woman who has been putting this grand vision together over these last 3 years and now will help us take it to the next level, our Deputy Mayor, Alicia Glenn.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Just going to echo a few things the mayor said, but I think it's important to note that, in an increasingly global economy, we really do have some extraordinary competitive advantages. We are by far the hardest working city in the world. We have the best talent. We have the most dynamic innovators and creators. And I think most importantly, we are not a one-company town. This is, in fact, the place where technology and innovation collide with our legacy sectors really like no place else on earth. It's an extraordinarily unique environment. And today, the sectors that we're focusing on thrive on that very diversity, that very creativity. It's food, it's fashion, it's film, it's TV, it's advertising. And again, as the mayor said, as a lifelong New Yorker, it's been a labor of love to work with so many extraordinary people to put this together today. We've been very successful in using the Made in New York brand to put our marketing power behind these homegrown industries. But today we're taking it to another level. We're supporting them, I think, with what most people in New York City would agree is the single biggest constraint to expanding their business: space. And the bottom line is the overall picture for these industries is already very strong, but that's why we need to do even more to make them stronger. As the mayor said, it's been a record year and quite a run in the film and television industry. We had 365 feature films in 2016. That's up 40% from the prior year. We now have 52 episodic TV shows shooting here, more than LA. It's extraordinary. And in fashion, we have over 180,000 people working in the fashion industry. And that's up 7% since 2000, despite some very big global declines in the fashion industry. But again, our studios are bursting at the seams. Nobody can keep up with the pace of film advertising and TV production that wants to be done here in New York. And when it comes to garment manufacturing, that side of the fashion industry, we have seen generations of decline, largely in part because firms cannot secure the modern, affordable space with the potential to grow, with the potential to expand at the rates and the duration that those makers and those manufacturers really need to be successful. Just think about it in practical terms. If you are a small firm trying to get off the ground, are you going to lay out hundreds of thousands of dollars to sign a long-term lease and buy lots and lots of equipment and take on additional employees if you really aren't able to negotiate favorable terms for your business? How are you really going to make sure that you can survive any changes in the market? And the businesses that want to manufacture in New York right now are facing very uncertain futures with respect to their real estate. And that's what the city can do. That's the intervention that we can make. We can help. We know it works because we've seen it work at the Brooklyn Navy Yard, we've seen it work at Brooklyn Army Terminal, and we see the results when firms can get the affordable, long-term, flexible space they need to grow their businesses. And there is no better place to do that than in Sunset Park. Many of these creative industries are already moving here. It's already happening organically. And now we want to help that movement along by developing our own assets, by creating the Made in New York campus. And this isn't about necessarily competing with Asia or Central America to do low-cost bulk manufacturing. This is about making a strategic investment in the economic future of our city and the premium that comes with being made in New York. It's not just the in-time production quality that you can never get when something's being made 2,000 miles away. It's about knowing that that premium is real. Just ask the 35 already certified Made in New York designers how important it is to them to be able to shorten a hemline, move a button, add a piece of embroidery, fix that sample, take that sample and get it into production, into stores and online as quickly as possible. Having that right here is critical to the economic success of these companies. And here we are in the middle of Fashion Week, right? And I can tell you also that the consumers, they really, really want quality, and they want to be proud of the item they're wearing. And many of us in City Hall are wearing New York-made clothes. We want to know that the clothing we wear has been made in New York City. And the chief beneficiary of that, again, is not just the people who go to the glitzy shows and all the glamour associated with fashion. It's the real beneficiaries of the new manufacturing economy are the local workforce, folks who now have an opportunity to have good quality jobs with career ladders, knowing that this industry is here to stay and they can grow and become a part of the middle class and be part of an industry that is so much energy and passion and excitement and really part of New York. We've already started to expand our workforce training programs in the film and television industry that have been incredibly successful. And today we're really thrilled to announce that our partners at FIT are going to be launching courses in Sunset Park this summer so that more of our public university students, high school students, and folks who just want to take a course in order to get the skills they need to be part of the fashion economy can get in the front door. Another administration might have looked at these unbelievable buildings, these cool open spaces, and seen lofts or condos. We see a place where people from all over New York City can come to learn, create, and make products and content that not only will reinforce New York's status as the creative capital of the world, but do it in a way that promotes our commitment to diversity, inclusiveness, and the shared prosperity we all seek. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Let me thank and acknowledge some of the other folks who are with us before you hear from our guests who are from the industries that are going to be a part of this new location. First, want to thank, I mentioned her earlier, and I want to give her a lot of credit for the tremendous strength now in our film and TV industry. And I know she's doing a lot every day to work with the companies that want to film here more and more all the time. I want to thank our Commissioner for the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment, Julie Menon, and want to thank and congratulate our new president for the Economic Development Corporation, James Patchett, which he'll be playing a key role in his team in the development of this site. Also, some other guests here I'd like to note and thank the president and CEO of the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, Andrew Hoan. Thank you, Carlos Shashura, who went from that role to now being president and CEO of the New York Building Congress, and David Mee, the Executive Director of Southwest Brooklyn Industrial Development Corporation. All care deeply about these jobs being created here in Brooklyn. And also from the film and TV industry, Doug Steiner, President of Steiner Studios, thank you, and Chris Hayes, co-owner of Eastern Effects, thank you very, very much. And everyone here representing the industries will be a part of this site, and also some of the schools that provide the education so people can be in these sectors. Finally, I want to acknowledge and thank from the community the chair of Community Board 7, Dan Murphy, and the district manager, Jeremy Laufer. Thank you both for all you do. Now it's my pleasure to introduce from the film and TV industry a guy who's been a leader in the industry, also is tremendously civically concerned and does a lot for people in Queens and all over New York City, and we thank him for that. The president of Silver Cup Studios, Stuart Suna.
Thank you. I just want to applaud the mayor and the women. I'm very impressed how many women are involved in your staff. I have daughters, so I think that's great.
Thank you.
It's an important part of diversity. We're thrilled to see your commitment to, and Julie Menon's commitment to really growing this industry, which continues to grow exponentially. It's a great opportunity for people of all backgrounds and diversities. New York City has this great high school called the Academy for Careers in Film and Television. Kids from all kinds of backgrounds and minorities within, I think, the first 4 years, it became the second highest test scoring school in New York City, just because they were motivated. They had a new focus and a new career. So I think film and television is a great opportunity for people from all backgrounds to really grow in this city and this state. We wouldn't be growing so well without also the support of the New York State Film Tax Credit. It's what really makes and levels the playing field. It makes it successful for whether it be Steiner Studios, Kaufman Astoria, my own Silver Cup Studios, to really grow. And it's, I think, the highest return on investment in any tax credit in the history of New York State. So it's creating jobs, creating good union-paying jobs, education, and diversity. It's a great way for, I think, the city to continue to grow and expand, and the film industry is a great way of also expanding the world's vision of New York, because New York City is the center of the world in so many ways. And I think so much work is done here. So I really think that I really applaud your vision in taking this beautiful waterfront, transforming it, and I know you have great staff, and we look for great success.
Thank you so much, Stuart. I want to make a point of what Stuart said. It's true. Every time a show is filmed in New York, a movie is filmed in New York, it also serves as an advertisement of everything great about New York. So we get another benefit from all the great work that this industry does. Finally, I want you to hear from my fellow Brooklynite and a true believer in building a business locally and hiring locally and manufacturing locally. I think we can say this about April and the business she created. She really wants things to be local.
Yes.
And I commend you for that. Designer April Johnson.
Hi. My name is April Johnson, like the mayor said, and I have a women's wear label called Alistair, which I've exclusively manufactured in New York since I started, and I'm very proud, to be part of Made in New York brand. Manufacturing locally is a growing movement, and it will only succeed with real backing, the kind that delivers the reliable resources to the designers and one that integrates the manufacturing with an ethical chain of supply. This is something that's really meaningful to me because I like to know who's making my garments. I think my customers would like to know who's sewing their clothes, the clothes that they're buying. And when people think about fashion, they often think about runway models or glamour. But this is an industry that's really based on hardworking men and women who are cutting the patterns, who are sewing the clothes, and they need to make good wages. This is about supporting the entire industry, the full community of all the different jobs that make up this ecosystem. And with these kinds of investments, the city is helping to ensure that the future of fashion is made in New York. I'm so proud to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, April. All right, we're going to take questions on this location and the whole initiative to create good new jobs for this city, and then we'll take questions on other topics after that. David.
I wondered, so the $136 million, is that just for the construction here, or is that to subsidize the rents on an ongoing basis? And how much will that rent subsidy cost for the business?
Sure, James, who's got that?
So the $136 million is for the capital that we're going to do to improve the buildings and some of the public realm improvements as well. There's also going to be some really extraordinary work done to make the campus more have a place quality feeling to it. The idea is that ultimately the rents will be set based on, again, our wanting to support the industry. It's not about, we don't have shareholders, right? We're not trying to set the rents in order to make a profit. We're going to be setting the rents so that we can support the businesses we want to be here and keep the operations running. But the capital is really for the improvements to the buildings and the campus itself, including some work on the Esplanade, which will make it even more fabulous to work here.
Sorry, just to follow up. Obviously, this is on the BQX line. Part of the idea behind that was to spur development along this route. There'll be for-profit, entities that are going to be supplying space here. Those rents will likely be higher than the rents here. So, the covering the cost of this now more expensive real estate, it seems as if the city would be sacrificing some revenue or providing some sort of subsidy.
Yeah, that's a decision we're proactively making to ensure that we're not focusing just on revenue. We're focusing on the quality of businesses, the type of workers they're hiring. And we don't need subsidy per se in order to make this work. We are building this asset to be high quality. We're going to own and operate it as a high quality asset, and we're going to charge rents that allow businesses to operate in higher quality jobs. We are not driven up, as Alicia said, to have to deliver high profits for our shareholders. We're just trying to do what's right for the city.
Yeah, and David, I think the other piece of the equation here is look at the Brooklyn Navy Yard's a great example, but also look at the life sciences example. There's a theory of the case. And some of it we are very gratefully borrowing from our predecessors. When I made the life sciences announcement, I said we looked at Roosevelt Island and what was done there with tech, and we said we want to borrow that idea and apply it to life sciences and have a specific campus that will really crystallize the growth of the industry. When you think about what's happening here, first of all, fashion industry desperately needs space that will work for them for the long haul in terms of manufacturing. Second of all, film and TV, we know, and Julie can speak to this, I'm going to let you cite the exact facts, Julie, but we're just plain out of space in terms of filming, and there's more demand. So what we're trying to do here is get the industries that have more growth potential to have a dedicated space, and to the campus point that Alicia made, and I'm a layman, Alicia is an expert, but I can say it in my own terms, that when you have those locations that people think about who want to start businesses and they believe it's the right place for them and they believe there's lots of opportunity to grow, and certainly, again, Brooklyn Navy Yard's a great example, it just starts momentum for our economy. and it gives people security that they can keep building what they want to build here. So that's sort of what we're trying to do across all of these sectors, and these locations are crucial to that strategy. Julie, just give folks a sense of how at this moment, how booked we already are as a city.
Right. Well, the great news is we've seen explosive growth in the past year. On the film side, we've seen 40% growth just in 1 year. On the TV side, we've seen 15% growth. And as the deputy mayor said, we're up to 52 TV episodics that are filming in New York. And as the mayor alluded to, this really points to the diversification of the city's economy in media and entertainment. If you take all the media and entertainment jobs, whether it be advertising, digital content, film, TV, music, it's 385,000 jobs. That's more than the financial and insurance sectors combined. So that is great news for New York. And New York City has a history of investing city money in film and TV, whether it be in Steiner Studios or Kaufman Studios.
But talk about the current rate at which the studio space right now is being used.
Right. So right now it's really at capacity. So our office every single day receives calls from productions that want to come to New York but can't come to New York because they can't find additional space. We spent the last year surveying all the various stakeholders who do filming work in New York, and it was the #1 thing they said. They would like to see more space. And so it's really, this development is in response to that feedback that we received.
Okay, yeah.
Mayor, can you talk a little bit about how folks will get here? The transportation, the closest subway is on 4th Avenue. I think that the closest bus is on 3rd. So a little bit about if there's any plans to improve that. And also if someone could just talk about the history of the actual building that we're in now, if anyone knows.
I'll start on the first question, then on the history question, my colleagues can jump in. Look, I think we can safely say this is an area that has a good start in terms of mass transit because of the subway being relatively nearby and the bus routes. But this is part of why we believe the BQX is an important opportunity for the future for places like Sunset Park, like Red Hook, and different parts of Queens, Long Island City. We think adding more transportation options gives people more reason to want to build their business in the area, makes it obviously easier for workers to get there, just spurs on development in the best sense. So we're going to stick to that vision, but in the meantime, as these jobs are created, certainly the transportation that is here now is a good start to getting people to these jobs. Do you want to speak to the history of the building?
Oh, the history of the building.
Or do we have another expert we'd like to bring forward, or do you?
No, these buildings were historically part of the shipping and waterfront complex of the city overall. There were, if you go to the waterfront, you'll see that there used to be 6 piers running all the way out into the water, which are no longer in use, and they all used to have berths for cities or for ships coming in, and there were train lines running all throughout and out to Long Island. So what this was it was a historical center of manufacturing, ships coming in and delivering their goods to the rest of Long Island.
And most of the building's about 100 years old?
That's
correct.
Right?
Yeah. So if you want a reference point, go watch the movie On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando, because that was right here and this immediate area. Give you perspective, Greg.
New Jersey.
Okay, he's saying it's New Jersey. I always heard it was in Brooklyn. I'll check my facts, but I'm going to defend Brooklyn. Go ahead.
Alternative fact.
Alternative facts. Greg Smith is offering alternative facts. I say it was in Brooklyn.
This is for Alicia. I don't know that this is your intent, but do you think an unintended consequence of this could be that the garment industry disembarks from Midtown and ends up here?
I don't think it's an unintended consequence at all. I think that what we're seeing here is an unbelievably organic movement to be making more garments and more products in Brooklyn. There are already over 100 fashion companies in Sunset Park. We had an amazing tour last week where we met with folks who are in a variety of different buildings, both in public and private buildings in the neighborhood. And so what we have consistently heard from people in the fashion industry, and that also includes obviously accessories and jewelry, and I mean it's a very robust ecosystem, is that in order for them to grow, they are going to have more space. Those are the existing firms that are here, and then all the hundreds of young people and students who are here making things and wanting to start their business here. They need to know that they can enter into a lease in a modern facility at a rent they can afford and be able to renew that lease and grow. And that is simply not an opportunity that we still have in Manhattan. So it is in our best interest as a city to continually create other places around the 5 boroughs casinos, where those kinds of businesses can grow and continue to employ people. So this is not a zero-sum game. This is about improving the overall numbers of human beings who are working in this industry and companies that are not just growing here, but staying here and really taking their game to the next level. So this is accretive. This is not a zero-sum game.
I'm hearing from them that they want to get out of there and come over.
We have, there are several firms who have said that on balance, if they can find longer-term leases with modern HVAC, great lighting, be on the water, and have longer-term leases, that they would actually be very excited about moving here. And of course, that would be good news for Brooklyn and good news for the city.
Okay, yeah, you're off.
Just wanted to clarify a couple things. So are the two buildings that are being renovated, they're owned by EDC, and then they're going to be leased out for long-term leases, I guess, through an RFP process? And also the newly constructed building, the studio, is that going to be city-owned and also leased out?
Sure. So technically, the buildings are owned by the City of New York and leased to EDC under our master lease, and that are operated by EDC, and then they will be effectively subleased to individual tenants. The buildings we're talking about renovating are this building and the building next door, and then the studio will be further down the lot to the south. As far as the long-term plans, I mean, this is all about getting them in, creating long-term leases that are sustainable for them.
And the studio will be city-owned?
Yeah, all the land is the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mayor, last night when you were talking about your jobs plan, you said that you were hoping to create 100,000 jobs over a decade. This site, you're saying, will create 1,500. You talked about a green jobs plan that will create 30,000 jobs. That's correct?
No, that's not correct. The green jobs is separate, and it's 3,000 jobs. So go ahead.
Okay. So,
Well, we like 30,000 more. It's just not accurate. Yeah, no.
So that's 4,500 jobs out of 100,000. Can you tell us any more about how you intend to get to that number and good paying?
Yeah, and I'm going to have Alicia and James talk about that. We're going to be putting out one of our traditional reports that will show you our plan and our vision, just like we did originally in May of 2014 with Housing New York, the now legendary booklet.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. It was so much fun the first time. Yeah. So we're going to do a vision of how, again, through public investment, we spur 100,000 more good-paying jobs. Separate from that, there's what the private sector does that has nothing to do with public investment. And again, we hope the private sector of its own volition will be creating more and more good-paying jobs. And I think crucial to that equation is continuing to keep the city safe and make it even safer, continuing to improve our schools, all the basics that facilitate private sector job growth. But this is specifically about a targeted strategy through public investment to foster the growth of 100,000 good-paying jobs, particularly keying on the development of sectors that we believe have tremendous growth potential. So why don't you give a sense of how those numbers add up over time?
Sure. So we have not obviously identified every single 100,000 jobs. That's why the mayor set the goal last night. But we can tell you, as the mayor alluded to, there's 10,000 jobs specifically that we anticipate creating at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. During that time frame, we've also announced a life sciences initiative that will create close to 10,000 jobs. On top of that, we're going to focus on a diverse set of industries. If you look at the Sunset Park area alone, which are EDC-owned assets today and were not historically, or EDC-controlled assets, I should say, this area, just in the city-owned assets, used to employ 20,000 people. Today, it employs 5,000. So if we can do our job right, someday there will be 20,000 people working in these buildings that are city-owned with long-term leases with quality jobs. And those are just 3 examples of the type of work we're trying to do.
Okay, wait. Go ahead.
Can you say when your planning document will be released? Is that going to be May this year, or?
It'll be released this year, hopefully in the next few months. I got to work with people since, again, we've developed this plan leading up to the State of the City, and I know it deserves its own booklet. And that'll be in real time. So I'd say the next couple of months. Okay, who has not asked yet? And then we'll come back to David. Anyone else want to ask who has not? David, go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up on something the deputy mayor said. You mentioned that there's already kind of an outflow of garment jobs from the garment district. So how many of the garment jobs do you anticipate creating here or luring here will be new jobs versus just jobs that would have been in Manhattan but are now here in Brooklyn?
I think the problem is there's been a significant decline in the garment center over the last decade in any event. It's not a question of whether they'll stay in Manhattan or whether they'll be here. It's a question of whether they'll leave New York City or come to Sunset Park if they've already made the decision to leave the garment center.
These are preserved jobs, right?
No, other way around. What he's saying is right now, the bigger strategic problem has been that we're losing those manufacturing jobs all the time. And the belief is that this new center is going to allow us to rebound. Yeah, sure, some will come down from Manhattan, but that's not the core of this vision.
Yeah.
The core of this vision is to now open up the possibility of a real rebound in garment manufacturing because there's a space that actually makes sense for the 21st century. And that was unfortunately less and less true in the garment center. Yeah.
Firms that sign a lease here have to guarantee that they're going to pay their employees a certain wage, or is that, I believe just the market will handle it?
We have a series of specific provisions, including wage requirements and other tenant requirements that will be part of every EDC lease and have already been.
Okay, ask on either this announcement or the overall jobs plan. Last call on questions on either one. Going once. The media, well, yes. Again, just reminding everyone, I can't tell who's media and who's not. So those are all media questions right now. Go ahead.
It says there's a quote in here from Felix Ortiz that says that Sunset Park residents are going to have priority status when applying for the jobs that you're creating here. What does that mean essentially?
We have a Hire NYC program which focuses on ensuring that employees who live in New York City and in particular the local area have first access to jobs, and we require all of our tenants to sign up for that program. In addition, there is a workforce center that will be located here, which will be specifically focused on reaching out to the local community and ensuring that members here are the ones who have the first shot at these jobs, because we care about seeing the Sunset Park community represented in these jobs. We don't just want to see people, certainly from outside the city. We want to see this be an inherent part of the fabric of the Sunset Park community.
Is there a percentage goal?
We haven't not set a specific percentage goal.
But every company that signs a lease is subject to the Hire NYC requirements.
Yeah.
Percentage goal? I don't know.
No, but everybody has to go through the Hire NYC process. The program's been up and running for about a year, and we're just getting a sense now of what percentage of employees actually get placed through that program. But everybody has to use Hire NYC.
Yeah.
But I can say, having not only represented Sunset Park in this capacity, but long ago as a school board member, it was one of the communities I represented and got to know very well. There's historically been an opportunity gap in Sunset Park, so we are excited by the opportunity to create good-paying jobs that people can literally walk to in many cases. And once upon a time, if you want to see the movie On the Waterfront, you would see people walking to their jobs on the docks in Brooklyn. This is the modern version of it in Brooklyn. Last call on this topic. Way in the back.
Mr. Mayor, can you just give us a breakdown again of those 40,000 jobs? Where exactly do you see them coming from? Because it's just unclear from the...
Yeah, it's unclear because you don't have it all in front of you yet, and you will soon. Again, 100,000 over 10 years, 40,000 over 4 years. The question was asked a few minutes ago, where are some of those coming from? As James just indicated, 10,000 in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, almost 10,000 in life sciences. We'll fill in all those gaps in terms of showing you how it plays out in the report that we're going to publish. But we got to this number based on looking at the different sectors and looking at the strength we thought they have and how we could develop them with the right investment. And we believe this is an attainable number. And again, remember, it's 100,000 jobs. On average, that means the impact on families is about 250,000 people or even more who benefit. Okay, last call on this topic, and then we'll go to others going once, going twice. Let's do other topics. Josh.
Mayor, you might not have heard this, but there's a guilty verdict in the Eitan Gates trial, and I don't know how closely you've been following this particular retrial, but certainly speaking on a larger sense, this is, as a New Yorker, we follow this extremely closely. I'm just wondering if you have any reaction.
I haven't been following the trial, but I remember, like everyone else, the pain that family felt, and I think all New Yorkers thought it was just one of those shocking moments in our history. Such a young boy taken away, and then the mystery that surrounded it. So, if this is a moment of some kind of closure, I think it's something the family deserves and the whole city deserves, because people have, felt the loss of this child for a long, long time. Okay, go ahead.
There's a push to name one of the new Staten Island ferries after fallen detective Russell Timoshenko. What do you think of this proposal? I know that you named the most recent one after Alice, who is also a fallen hero.
Absolutely. Look, first of all, we're going to be talking to people in Staten Island to get a sense of what they think. I think that's the important thing we have to do. But this is, as an idea, it's a very good idea, because I think one of the best things we can do is salute those who gave their lives for us. So I'm not going to weigh in for one idea or another yet. I'm going to say I think it's a very good idea, and we will talk to people all over Staten Island before making the final decision.
How will you be reaching out to Staten Islanders to see?
As we did last time, we sought input from elected officials, community leaders, clergy, et cetera. We'll do the same thing again. Yeah.
So what would be your message for our community on reports of people getting stopped by people claiming to be federal agents and demanding money?
Look, anybody who's trying to scam immigrants, particularly at this moment where so many immigrants are living in fear, that's absolutely unacceptable, and it's illegal. And we need people to report it, and this is a great opportunity to remind all New Yorkers, regardless of documentation status, that nothing has changed in the way the NYPD respects all New Yorkers. The NYPD will not ask your documentation status, nor will any other city employees. If someone is a victim of fraud, they need to report it right away so we can get the person who did this to them and stop them from victimizing others.
You gave a speech last night.
Yes, I did. This is going very well so far. Yes, I did.
50 minutes maybe. So. And during that time, you never said the letters ACS. And you currently have an agency that has some issues, but it doesn't have a commissioner. So can you just tell us why you didn't talk about that?
I said at the very beginning of the speech was going to have a central thematic focus. I named some other areas that I was not speaking about that are very, very worthy of attention. I could name many others. We are going to have a commissioner soon. We'll make that announcement as soon as it's appropriate. And in the meantime, we've obviously announced some other things that I think are going to help HCS move forward, including a deeper coordination with the NYPD and the presence of Chief Bob Boyce as co-chair for the Child Stat initiative. So you'll get news on new commissioner as soon as it's ready, but ACS, I think, if you know my history, is something I've spent a lot of time working on over the years and I care deeply about. But the speech last night was about what I think is the issue most on the minds of the most New Yorkers, and I needed to devote that speech to talking about the direction forward.
Do you have an ETA on when you're going to name?
I don't do ETAs on personnel, but I think it will be soon. Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
So last week,
Say it with confidence next time.
you said last week that you were planning to, in order to pay for these legal fees, and I understand that you said you're not a billionaire and you cannot pay for your legal fees with your own money. You said you were considering setting up a legal defense fund. Can you tell us anything about how that would be structured? And do you have any concerns that creating an entity like that could open you up to the same criticism that led to all of these questions about your fundraising?
Again, it's the only, we'll have details when we have them. We don't have them yet. It's the only way, it's a perfectly well-established mechanism. It's the only way to put together the resources to pay for something like this. As simple as that.
I understand that, but other different models to set that up.
Again, we haven't gotten there. When we get there, we'll talk to you about it.
You put together limits on accepting unlimited contributions.
Haven't gotten there. We just haven't gotten there. Okay, way back.
We had another prisoner escape in NYPD custody over the weekend. There were 3, I believe, last year, 6 the year before, and that's when Brad was missing. He called it embarrassing. I
I'm just wondering if you've had any conversations now with Commissioner O'Neill about the frequency of these escapes, and also if you feel there needs to be more training within the NYPD and possibly physical fitness requirements that these officers want.
I've spoken to Commissioner O'Neill on this regularly. He is a real taskmaster on this point. He does not accept the notion that these individuals could get away, and you've seen him mete out real disciplinary action in these cases. So I believe that is one of the ways to get the message across of how vigilant our officers need to be during these operations. The retraining is something that's now going on constantly in the NYPD because we're in a heavy training regimen that we didn't used to have in the past, so these kind of issues are treated in the training. I feel confident that not only is the commissioner personally devoted to making sure that there's follow-through in each case, but that the training approach will address these issues.
Do you think there needs to be physical fitness requirements of the officer?
I'm not an expert enough to say how we handle that. I trust Commissioner O'Neill on that. Marcia.
Mr. Mayor, last night you said specifically that you weren't going to address homelessness and other issues that New Yorkers care about. I wonder if you think that that's a lost opportunity, given the fact that you had a primetime speech that was televised and you had people who were not normally at home have the opportunity to hear you and, have concerns about these issues. Should you have addressed it?
No, I'm quite comfortable this was the right thing to do. This is the issue, again, I've said to you guys for years. This is what I hear from my fellow New Yorkers about the most. I think if you ask most elected officials, they would say the same thing to you. This is the issue where we have to go in a new direction, and I thought it was very important to use that opportunity to really go into detail about what that vision looks like. I'm very comfortable this was the right choice. Again, in the coming weeks, we will have dedicated time to talk about new initiatives in some of the other important areas. But this was about the issue that I think for so many New Yorkers is the #1 problem they're facing.
This was a marked departure from other city speeches that you've given where you talked about any number of issues. I wonder why you decided to eliminate them, and if it was because these are thorny issues for your administration to deal with.
No, it's, I think I made very clear the affordability crisis is a tough issue for this whole city and that we have to do a lot more. I was trying in the speech to be very blunt about the extent of the crisis and what it means in human terms, but also the fact that we're going to devote new resources of a kind we've never seen before in this city. We're going to go much farther, and we're not going to just address it on the housing side of the equation, but now really in a much more concentrated way than the city has done before in terms of creating good jobs so people have the money to actually pay the rent. I think there's nothing more important to address in this city. And this was not a sugar-coated speech. This was describing a tough situation that demands very intense answers. Those other issues need to be addressed, and they will. But I got to thinking about it, Marcia, and I came to the conclusion that you can touch upon a whole lot of different issues, or you can really concentrate on one and provide a deeper explanation of strategy. And I thought this was a strategy people in the city would want to know about. Yeah.
Just to build on that, do you feel like people are then left without, feeling like they have answers for where the city is going on some of these crucial issues like homelessness, like on ACS, and rather than tackling the areas where you actually have the most control in terms of reforming your agencies, you've gone with this very, very large vision about how to bring jobs back to the city over the long term, rather than focusing in on sort of the nuts and bolts of city governance.
Again, the #1 obligation I have is to address the issues that affect New Yorkers the most. All of the issues that I said last night we would speak to soon. Homelessness, obviously the opioids crisis, the congestion problem, certainly ACS we're going to be speaking to. We're going to be speaking to the future of Rikers. There's all sorts of things that need to be addressed. But all those issues are crucial. All those issues affect a lot of people. I don't think any issue is as deeply felt and affecting millions of people as much as the affordability crisis. And I think it deserved the attention that I gave it last night because people need to hear a strategy. And you can, look, these speeches, you could go on all night, but that's not going to work. I think you could say with most of these speeches, you get give or take an hour. I could have hit upon a bunch of areas very glancingly. I didn't think that's what would be effective. I didn't think that's what people wanted to hear the most. I think they wanted to hear what was going to affect their lives. But when we do the other pieces, I hate to tell you this also, I think some people tune into a State of the City speech. I don't think it was on the television screens of every New Yorker and on the computer screens of every New Yorker last night. I think it's a relatively small number of people who tune in. When we talk about the other important things, I guarantee you, with all of your help, we will get the message out on what those strategies are and where we're going. Rich?
Mr. Mayor, so if I could follow on that in
Please.
a way, you are a landlord. Did you think about when you set the rent for your house? Did the word affordability come into your mind, or?
You know, we are small landlords. It's a different situation, obviously. But Charlene and I have always been conscious. We've gotten to know our tenants. And we've tried to always strike a balance. You know, we have tenants that we like. We want to be fair to them. We also have repairs we got to make. We try and strike a balance all the time. But really, the reality that we're talking about, especially when we talk about some of the landlords I was mentioning last night, those are folks who have very big businesses and lots of buildings and lots of apartments. And I think that the landlord lobby is doing a tremendous disservice to this city right now because they're trying to stand in the way of a rent freeze. I don't think they'll succeed. I think the rent freeze was something people deserved and is deeply appreciated in this city. And they're trying to stand in the way of homeowners getting a $183 credit in their water bill, which is an outrageous action by the landlord lobby to keep people from getting money back from the government. So I think it is important to let people know about that fact. Please. Go ahead, Rich. Go ahead.
Can I just get a twofer on? I just wondered, if this far into an election cycle or an election year, are you surprised that you don't have more opposition, gratified or shocked? What's the reason?
I think we can say in the last few years we all should throw out the rule book related to electoral politics. I think we're in the great unknown right now, and it'd be good for all of us to recognize it. So I don't compare this to previous dynamics. My job is to run hard and to run like an insurgent, which is where I've spent my life, and not to assume anything. I'll make assumptions when the polls close on election night in November. Matt?
Mark. Yeah, sure. I'm wondering if congestion pricing is an option. If it's still on the table, if you'll rule it out.
You know, nothing's changed in my position, and I said I've always had concerns about it. I've also understood the intellectual rationale for it, but I've always had concerns. But the thing that I've said, just a blunt, hard reality, so long as there's a Republican state Senate, it's not even going to get to first base. And this one I really, truly believe. So it's not part of my vision.
What kind of follow-up would you consider a different kind of congestion pricing plan?
Again, this has not been where we're focused. I can't speak in theoreticals, just not what my focus has been.
Mr. Mayor, on Friday, there was a police that used a taser gun on a pregnant teenager accused of resisting arrest. What's your comment on this?
I don't know about the case, and I'd be very happy to look into it. Again, one thing I want to be clear about, not knowing the facts, I'm going to speak broadly, is, you know, we believe there are situations where not only is the use of a taser appropriate, but it is the alternative in certain altercations to the use of a firearm, and that is obviously better for all concerned. So we'll look into this specific situation and have something more to say on it. Thank you, everyone.
A follow-up question. Thanks, question that was already asked.
Yeah, we're good.